There are nations that fall. There are nations that disappear. History is full of them. But there is no precedent for a nation that vanishes for nearly 2,000 years and then returns. No borders, no army, no king, no homeland. And yet, against every historical pattern, it came back. Long before exile began, the Hebrew prophets spoke of scattering. But they also spoke of something far stranger. A return, not through conquest, not through empire, but through survival. The same scriptures that warned of dispersion also promised restoration. In Deuteronomy 30, Moses tells the people that after being scattered to the farthest nations under heaven, God would gather them again and bring them back to the land their ancestors possessed. At the time, this would have sounded impossible. Ancient peoples did not return after exile. They were absorbed. They vanished. Yet the prophecy did not say if, it said when. For centuries, the land of Israel passed through empires. Roman, Byzantine, Islamic Caliphate, Ottoman rule. Yet despite conquest after conquest, the land never became the heart of another nation. Travelers described it as desolate, swamps, ruins, abandoned cities. Mark Twain, visiting in the 19th century, wrote of a land mourning its former glory. The land remained, but without its people. History isn't always loud. It doesn't always announce itself with trumpets and declarations. Sometimes the most profound changes begin with a whisper, a quiet movement that goes almost unnoticed by the rest of the world. This is one of those stories. Let's rewind to the late 1800s. Forget the headlines and the grand political statements for a moment. Instead, picture this. Families, individuals, driven by a connection thousands of years old, making a personal choice. They started returning. This wasn't a military conquest or a state-sponsored project. It was something far more grassroots, far more personal. These weren't powerful figures. They were ordinary people with an extraordinary vision. Jewish families began arriving, not with weapons, but with purchase deeds. They bought land, often arid and neglected, and got to work. Imagine the sheer determination it took. They faced malarial swamps that needed draining, barren hills that needed terracing, and ancient ruins that needed rebuilding. Piece by piece, they breathed life back into the landscape. They planted the first orange groves, established farms, and laid the foundations for new villages and towns. Think of places like Petah Tikva or Rishon LeZion. These weren't just names on a map. They were dreams made real through back-breaking labor. Each new well dug, each field plowed, was an act of faith in the future. This movement was slow, deliberate, and often met with resistance. It wasn't easy. There were political obstacles, economic hardships, and the immense challenge of cultivating land that had been untended for centuries. Yet, they persisted. This quiet, steady return wasn't orchestrated by some grand prophecy movement or commanded by an empire. It was the sum of countless individual decisions, a collective pull towards a historic homeland. For decades, the world barely noticed. While empires rose and fell and global politics shifted, this subtle transformation was taking place on the ground. In Ezekiel 37, the prophet describes a valley filled with dry bones, bones that had been dead for a long time. As Ezekiel watches, the bones come together, tendons form, flesh appears. Breath enters them. God explains the vision plainly. These bones are the whole house of Israel. The prophecy does not describe a spiritual revival first. It describes physical restoration before breath enters, land, people, then life. Have you ever heard a story so incredible it sounds like it's straight out of a movie? Well, today we're diving into a real-life event that many thought was impossible. Let's turn the clock back to May 14th, 1948. For nearly 2,000 years, a nation existed only in memory and prayers and in the hearts of a scattered people. Then, in a single day, everything changed. On that historic Friday, the State of Israel was officially declared. Imagine the scene: jubilation in the streets of Tel Aviv, a dream realized after centuries of wandering. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated hope. But that hope was almost immediately put to the ultimate test. Within hours of the declaration, before the ink was even dry, the new nation found itself under attack. Armies from neighboring countries converged, launching a full-scale invasion from all sides. It was a classic David versus Goliath scenario. The fledgling state had no established army, limited weapons, and was vastly outnumbered. Logically, it should have been crushed in a matter of days, if not hours. The odds were not just long. They were astronomical. It seemed like the dream would be extinguished before it even had a chance to begin. Against all expectations, against all military logic, Israel survived. They held their ground, fought back with fierce determination, and managed to push back the invading forces. It was a victory that stunned the world. How did this happen? When historians look back at this event, they often use words like improbable or astonishing. They analyze the strategic blunders of the attackers and the desperate courage of the defenders. Politicians then and now call it controversial, debating the geopolitical shifts it created in the Middle East, a debate that continues to this day. But there's another perspective, one that sees this event not as a historical accident or a political maneuver, but as the fulfillment of an ancient promise. Long before 1948, the prophet Isaiah posed a question that seemed almost rhetorical. He wrote in the scriptures, "Can a country be born in a day or a nation be brought forth in a moment?" For centuries, that question hung in the air. Then, on May 14, 1948, history gave a resounding and unbelievable answer. Yes, a nation was born in a single day. Whether you see it as a miracle, a historical anomaly, or the fulfillment of prophecy, the birth of modern Israel is undeniably one of the most remarkable events of the 20th century. Empires fall because they are conquered. Peoples disappear because they assimilate. Israel did neither. Scattered, targeted, persecuted, yet preserved. The return defied every historical rule, and it did not happen gradually across centuries. It happened suddenly, exactly as described. The scattering was warned. The preservation was promised. The return was written. History recorded the event. Scripture recorded it first. This is not theology. It is documentation. Empires rise. Empires fall. But some things were written before history had a chance to disagree. This is the Watchman Record. Thank you for watching. Leave any comments below and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.